So if I run this, there's a spot, there's a spot, spot. Oh, I don't have all of the winning conditions. That turns out to be important. Let's try that again. All right, so I got a vertical column, so 0, 1. Good, so that does work for that. Obviously, I'll want to put in the rest of the check wins. All right, so what happens if somebody wins? Besides just saying that they won, I should probably make sure that the totals get updated. So what I'm going to do is, during this game, you actually won't use this system out print line. I'm just doing this for debugging. Usually you want to actually use components that are in the game itself. So I'm going to update how many times x is won. Right now, that's just a label. It's just, I've just got this string here that I just put in. This is actually going to change as well. So I'm going to have it so that you can change your name eventually. And then I'm going to have this number change as well. I don't have any of that built in yet, so I need to do that. So I'm going to need a string, which is, well, let's see, what will this be? X player name, which initially I'm just going to set to be x. Similar thing for O. And then I need an int which keeps track of how many wins each one of them has. So this will actually update the labels. So if x won, I need to update the number of wins and update this label here. So x wins plus plus. And then the name of that particular label was x name. It's probably not a very good name for it, actually. Let's do this. So let's refactor and rename that thing. What this will do is it'll go through your code, and everywhere you have x name, it'll change that. I want x label. Refactor, rename, O label. Okay. Refactor basically means it's going to go through all of your code, and everywhere you had x name, it'll change it. So that's the idea with that. The only place that it really mattered was that we also added it in down here. So notice that when I altered it up here, it also changed it down here. So I didn't have to go hunting for it each time. You could, in theory, just change it up in the definition, and then everywhere you get errors where it doesn't recognize that, you could just go change that. All right, so x wins, x label dot set text, and I'm going to set the text to be x's player name plus a space wins colon plus x wins. So now that's been updated. Similar thing for O, if O wins. O wins, O label set text, O player name, O wins. So now, if O wins, it's going to update that. So let's have X win real quick. All right, there it is. The other thing I should do is I should actually clear out this area. This is going to happen in check win, and check tie, and it's a little bit lengthy, so I'm actually going to make a separate method to do this. So it's not going to return anything, so it'll be void, clear board. And I don't need to pass anything in, because regardless of who won, I'm just going to set everything back to its default states. So things I should do, I should go through the board, and I should go through the buttons and clear them out. I think I'm going to use for loops to do this. So let's call this, I'll just use A and B, I think. By default, usually they use I and J. The only thing is that I is a little bit tricky to read. So we'll use board and board 0. So board A B needs to go back to a blank. And also, buttons A, B needs to set its text back to a blank. Button is what I called it. So the thing that goes in here, I'm just going to do a blank for now. I'm also going to reset the turn in my game. It's up to you whether you want to do that or not. So now, if I want to clear the board, all I have to do is after somebody wins, say, clear board. All right, so now I cleared it. Ideally, I probably want to clear out all the text from those buttons as well. All right, so that clears the board. That's the beginnings of how to actually make the game itself run. So the last thing is, how do I update the player's name? All I'm going to do is I'm just going to update this string here and then redo the label. So if I click on action performed, there it is. So if I click on this thing here where I change the name, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take whatever's in this field here, the text field, hopefully I type something in, and I'm going to set that as the string. So in this case, X player name. So this is no longer the case. What I'm going to say is X player name equals X field. Is that what I called it? Exchange field. Dot get text. So that's going to take this particular text field and get its text out. So now this whole thing represents a string, which I assigned to be the player name. Now I need to update the label, which is actually very similar to this label. So I'm just going to grab this here. So I'm going to set the label to be the new player name plus the wins plus the X wins. O is almost the same thing, just changing X for O. O, 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 O. Cool. There we go. That will get you started on GUI TicTacToe. Hopefully you will be able to figure everything else out. It's very similar to the original TicTacToe as far as winning and ties. One more thing I forgot to mention, which is in the requirements, is that you must have a way to disable buttons when you actually play a move. It's actually pretty easy. All you need to do is, in the spot where you actually set the move, also just set enabled to false. So if I run this, and I click on a button, notice that it has grayed this out, and I'm not able to click on it again. When you actually win, all you need to do is go through every single one of the buttons in your board and set enabled back to true. It's a pretty easy way to make it so that players don't play in the same spot over and over again.